Hello and welcome to Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Today I'm going to be talking about the Seaglass tee, which was a pattern that was recently released by Wool and Pine. And I recently finished it. It's not blocked. I literally just finished it today. I'm going to show it to you, then I'll tell you what I'm wearing. My mom has this tripod that I usually use, which is like this cool thing that hooks onto the table and like holds your phone, but I don't know where it is. I think she took it to work with her, so I've just propped my phone up on some books, and hopefully, I mean, the angle's a little bit different, but hopefully it doesn't matter. I guess I'll just say what I'm wearing. I'm wearing Drama by Jennifer Seaglass. I made this into a cardigan. I just made a stake bridge across the front, started the chart at the front, cast on one extra stitch so they'd be symmetrical, and then cut the stake when I was done. And I'm doing this again. I'm like in the process of knitting another sweater like this that has this, isn't supposed to have a steek, but I made it into a steeked cardigan. I'm making the Throw Over by Andrea Mowry. And so she made the Throw Back, which is a cardigan, but it's not steeked. It's knit in color work back and forth, which, as you know, if you watch my channel, I'm not about to do. So instead I said, I'm gonna steek that. I'm just gonna do the pattern in the round and then cut it. So that one, the body is done. I'm gonna do the sleeves and then I will do a video about how I did that. But the Seaglass tee is, okay, that's the back. So here it is. Again, it's not blocked, so these sleeve caps will eventually lie flat. But there it is. You can see in detail. It's crazy. This was so much knitting. It's a little t-shirt. Again, this is all folded. And it's a little bit cropped. You can knit it as long as you want, of course. There's no shaping in the body. This is a t-shirt knit all the way around in 1x1 color work. And you change colors every single round. And to change colors in the Seaglass tee, you use magic knots. So when I show you the back, you'll see some of the magic knots because sometimes they poke through. They look like little nups. And again, I did them all on the back on purpose so that it wouldn't be obvious, but you can oftentimes just like poke them through and then you won't be able to see them at all. Like you can kind of just like pull from the inside and like wiggle it back through. A magic knot is a way to graft two ends of yarn together. So you actually tie two knots and then you pull them together. You tie one yarn around the other yarn and then you tie the second yarn around the first yarn and then you pull them together and it creates a very secure knot. If you buy the Seaglass tee pattern, which you should do, obviously, it comes with a ton of video tutorials on Vimeo, which are super cool. And they show you to do the magic knot. They show you all these tips on color blending, and there's all sorts of tutorials for the Seaglass tee if you buy the pattern that are included. Now I'm busying myself by trying to pull the magic knots back through. They don't always want to stay. A lot of people will just say they don't care at all. The magic knots can go in random places. They don't mind it because it looks like a little nup or bobble. It's not really a big deal. But yeah, so this is a circular yoke pattern. Technically, it's not raglan, so you can see there's increases in these little wedges all along at various points throughout the yoke. And then you split the sleeves off. In the pattern, you're actually supposed to knit a little bit more on the sleeve. I didn't do that. I said I like a little cap sleeve. That's fine. I'm not wearing this again because it's not blocked. But I'm going to tell you about some challenges I faced with this. Okay, so I wanted to knit it because I had tons of leftovers of fingering weight scraps. So you might fall into these categories too. Basically, I have Shetland scraps from Shetland projects. You can repurpose that into hats or whatever, as you've seen me do in my videos before. But I used some Shetland here. I have sock scraps because I'm a sock knitter. And I have, I used to make all these mittens with fingering weight single yarn. And so I had tons of singles that I really don't use very much anymore because they're not great as a garment because they get so stretched out. But if you're doing it in really tight gauge 1x1 color work, not a big deal. So I also occasionally in some of these rows, I used mohair held double. So you can't really tell. You can sort of see a halo there like little halos that you can kind of see. That just indicates that I use mohair in that row. The color blending was, I did not see that as a challenge, but it was kind of fun. At first, I was much more random, and then I started going into these color groupings that became really obvious. So you can see like green, kind of purple groupings, blue groupings. Occasionally I did a big pink stripe, that kind of thing. And I sort of threw in some random variegated things occasionally, but I just found it easier to group into just like, 5 rounds of various purples and 5 rounds of various blues and 5 rounds of various greens. One thing you can do if this is a little daunting is you can hold, so it's the whole thing is 1 by 1 color work, and you're changing every single color every round. So you could, you basically have a light color every round and a dark color every round. And when you go and do the second round, each second round you're going, every time you see the light color from the round before, you knit with the following row's dark color. So that's why you get the checkerboard effect, because light and dark aren't being matched up most of the time. Sometimes you get these things because sometimes yarns don't seem like one of them, it's hard to tell the difference, or if your next round, both of the colors are a lot lighter from the round before, sometimes it can look a little messed up. But for the most part, you're going light over light and dark, or light over dark and dark over light every round. So with that in mind, you could just have one color of as the main color, and then just change your contrasting one every round, however often you want. I've seen people do one color and then use minis and just go to the end of the mini, and then it creates kind of this ombre effect. If you want to check out the Little Red Mitten podcast on YouTube, this Little Red Mitten is a store in Canada, and one of the owners, they have a podcast or a channel. They do a channel together, and one of them made a Seaglass tea, and she used an oatmeal or a white as the base, as one of the colors just throughout, and then she used a bunch of minis, and she just knit until the mini was done, and then she started a new mini, and it looks really cool. So yeah, you can make magic balls. A magic ball is when you just make magic knots. You take a length of yarn and then you magic knot it to another length of yarn, and you just keep going. And if I were going to do this again, I would do that. So basically what I learned was at the end of this, so it was yesterday, I was I probably had a few more inches to knit on the body, and I was it takes forever. I just got to do it. And so what I did at that point was I said, the biggest challenge for me here is that every single round you have to make a magic knot, and it really just throws off your flow of knitting. So I want to knit 5 rounds at a time. And so I did a really long piece of yarn, and I measured it. I measured it basically by going the length of my bedroom. And then I actually measured it in inches. And I said, okay, I'm going to knit, and this will be way more than a whole round's worth of yarn. So then when I'm done with this round, I'll cut that, and I'll find out how much is left, and then I'll know how long one round is approximately, because you can approximate, because you don't want the magic knot to be in the same place every round anyway. So I said, I'm going to do that. And I did. And then I could just cut 5 lengths at a time of the, because when I was doing this, I was often lining up the next 10 anyway. And then I'd be okay, this is what I'm going to get through today. I'm going to get through these 10 today. And so I would do 10 pairs, and I would line them up, and I would decide which order to do them in. And that worked. That was a good, kind of a good way to do it. So that was fine. But so then I did the magic knot, and I did 5 at a time last night, and I got through 10 rounds like that. And then this morning I did another 11, and again, that, it was done. And my mom said, it's like paint prep. You do the prep and then it's all done. I'm going to actually pause this right now and put it on, and then you can see, because the ends and stuff, I'm you won't be able to see all that. I haven't snipped the ends. I did weave them in, so I'll just tuck them in and it'll be fine. Anyway, just give me a second. All right, so I'm going to just stand up so you can see. So it's a little bit cropped. I'm going to give it a tug when I block it, so that that's not so much of an issue. But I really like it. It's very bespoke. I mean, it's totally one of a kind, which is fun. Okay, so I'm going to talk about another issue that I had. And before I forget, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you, I'll just take a picture of a bunch of the minis on my floor. And they'll be I'll organize them by color so you can see how I basically organize them, and then I could pick quickly and create, you know, pairs and then a set of colors easily. I'm going to talk about issues I had with gauge. So I'm a loose knitter because I don't tension the yarn around my finger. And I did a swatch on like a size 3 needle. I think it said to use a size 5 needle. And I was like, I'm going to use the size 3. Maybe it said a size 4. If you get the pattern, you can find out, because this pattern is a pay-for pattern. So I'm not going to look at that for you. You can go to the Ravelry pattern page and it will tell you what size needle to use. Anyway, so I swatched with a size 3 and it was too small. And I really hate doing the swatching in the round where you have to like carry the yarn on the back when I'm doing color work, and you're changing the colors every round, which I realized I didn't have to do. I could have done the same 2 colors, but I didn't do that. I changed it every round. And a lot of people say, or the people who wrote the pattern say, you should do that because then you can kind of create a colorway. Like you could do like a 15 stripe sequence and kind of play with color play. I just went for it. As you can see, it's random. It's a little loose. So again, I'm going to explain why. Okay, so I don't know what size I started knitting, but I think I was getting too loose of a gauge when I went up to a size 4, or so I thought. That ended up not being true. So I started with like a size smaller than I normally would. I may have started with the smallest size, which was probably stupid, because basically what happened was that when I got to the sleeve separation, it wasn't big enough. Like I split for the sleeves and I tried it on and I was like, I can't get my arm into there. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to before the sleeve separation. I'm going to do 2 more increase rounds. Maybe I just did 1 more increase round. I did more increase rounds and I kept going a little bit, but then the neck was way too tall. Like the yoke was just too deep and it went like up here. And so basically I had to do surgery when I was finished, and I cut this much off. So you can see how small the neck was. And this was like at least 2 rounds of increase, maybe 3 increases worth of fabric. And so I have a wider neck now. I had tried to do short rows in this. I don't even know if you can see it. Maybe I didn't. Yeah, I tried. It didn't work out. I tried to do a couple of short rows on the back. You can see it in the pattern. It was just not smart. It didn't work. If you were going to do short rows in this pattern, you should do it in the main color before you start color work. So basically this doesn't have any short rows, but because I widened the neck, it's not really a big deal. Like before, I needed those short rows because it was like up here like a priest collar. Yeah, now I can just kind of tug it. And with blocking, I'm going to give it a little tug. So I chose the dark green as the main color. It's not obviously a main color throughout. It's just the color that I used at the neck, at the little sleeve cuffs here, and then at the bottom. I thought it was a nice neutral. It's like a spruce green. I dyed this myself. I think this is 100% wool. It's like a BFL high twist sock yarn. I did a festive doodle sweater out of this, except it ended up way too small. Again, gauge issues. And I didn't want to do the sleeves, and it's like very cropped. It's like a little Soldotna sweater, but it's really small and tight. And so I don't know, maybe I'll give it to one of the kids I used to nanny. It's so small. They would probably love it. They would fight over it though. It's the problem. They're literally 6 and 8 and it would fit them. Like that's how small this thing is. It's like for a child. Anyway. But yeah, so the gauge issues, again, surgery is not too hard. Basically what I did, and I've done this before, obviously it's easier if you're like knitting a bottom-up sweater, if you need to go back and fix the neck. You can do a provisional cast on. That's one thing that would really help if you were afraid you were going to have gauge issues, is do a provisional cast on at the neck, because then you can unzip the cast on and like unravel a little bit of the sweater. But I've had to do it on sweaters I ended up knitting bottom up, like that were too long, because superwash yarn stretches so much. I've had to do this on 2 sweaters. Both were knit for men, and both were like just ended up being like several inches too long because the sweater grew so much after I washed it. So I had to do surgery where I just basically you pick up the stitches in the same round. Like you don't want to accidentally shift around, because that will like completely F up your your like system. And then, so be careful with that. Make sure it's in a straight line. And then you just make one cut. You like pull the yarn out right above the, where the needle's in the round above where you picked up, make one cut. And then you just use the needle to unpick that round. And then, so then it's like everything below is that you don't want, like basically here is you unravel the round above or below you where you want it, and then you just this part just comes off when you're done unraveling that round, and all your stitches are already on the needles, so you're not dealing with live stitches. Like you could make a cut and then like unpick one stitch at a time, put your needle through it if you're afraid you won't be able to pick them up in a straight line. But here that was easy because you can see, because it's color work, you can just pick up the stitches that are all in the same 2 colors. And then I started knitting with the spruce color, knit 1 round, and then I did a 1x1 ribbing. All of my edges are just 5 rounds. I did 4 rounds of 1x1 rib and then 1 round where I cast off in pattern. So knit 1, purl 1. And again, yeah, I surprisingly really like this. I'm not surprised that I like it so much, but for something that was so kind of crazy and random, I'm surprised it ended up like I can see myself in this the reflection, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look crazy. Like it looks kind of crazy, but in a good way, like a bespoke way in which, you know, like I'm like, I would wear that. Sure. Maybe I wouldn't wear it to, maybe I would wear it to work, like under like a jacket, or like a sweater, you know. I'll put the sweater on and you can see what it will look like under that. It's like it's just a t-shirt. I mean, it looks, oh, it's getting all, it's not great. Oh, okay. That's good to know. It's always good to know if it's not great under something, because sometimes the yoke length is too long and if you'll like bunch it up when you put something else over it. But anyway, yeah, I'm also getting cold. It's cold. It's too cold to wear a t-shirt. Yeah, look, you know, it looks like a normal shirt. I try not to knit things that I don't want to wear. So I'm really glad that I want to wear this, because I did knit it because I thought that looks amazing. But like, obviously, because people have different scraps, you know, everyone's will look different. So I didn't totally know. And I just thought it would be a fun way to see if I could use up my scraps to do this. Of course, I have way too many scraps to actually have used them up. Because in the end, you're using very little. For each round, you're using like, I don't know, maybe 60 inches, like, no, maybe more than 60 inches, maybe 100 inches of yarn per round. And so like, that's not that much in the long run. That's a tiny amount. So, and I only repeated yarns like 5 or 6 times throughout the whole sweater, maybe some of them more than others, but like, yeah, I mean, you don't actually use up that much yarn. So if you have minis, that's really good. I think the sweater weighs about 250 grams total, which means, you know, that's how much yarn you need. Basically you need that much worth of minis. And yeah, so I had a friend who I showed this to, and she was like, I need to make that, but I don't have any scraps. And so I just like wound off a ton of smaller than this, like 5-gram minis of like, I don't know, 30 yarns that I had. And I was like, here you go. And I was like, maybe you should get, I don't know if this will make the whole sweater, but this will make all of the colors if you get like a white to go with it, and you get just like 2 skeins of white sock yarn or something. So yeah, if you subscribe to Row 1 Minis, if you have an advent calendar, because Advent's coming up, you know, if you have a lot of Shetland or sock or fingering singles or mohair or literally any other sock weight yarn, fingering weight yarn, I even use some sport weight yarns in here, go for it. Another thing that would be fun is actually, I would like to try doing this with like sport or worsted weight yarn as just like a raglan, you know, following just like Ann Budd's book of top-down sweaters. Or like, I mean, to do that, you could also follow the Cozy Classic raglan pattern, or Hohi's basic, you know, pullover, or whatever, the Woolly Thistle vanilla sweater, that's 20 stitches over 4 inches. Like any of those will also give you instructions for a top-down plain raglan sweater. Just do it in 1x1 color work and see what happens. That's basically what this is. So I like the fit of a raglan better than I like the fit of a circular round yoke. Obviously these color work pieces, you know, yoke sweaters are always as you can see, this is a wedge type design. So it gets small, it's smaller here, and then it increases to wedges. This is a circular yoke. And for these, it doesn't really matter that much. I have tons of sweaters that are circular yokes and I wear them all the time. This one, I don't like as much as I like, like a raglan t-shirt or something. So we'll see, but I'm sure I'll wear it more than I, anticipated I would initially. But yeah, I would say, be pretty conscious of your gauge as often as possible. Measure a lot, wash your swatch, really try it out. Maybe even knit a hat, like in 1x1 color work like this, just to see if your gauge is going to be consistent. If you're going to mix up the types of yarns you use, a gauge is also really important. Like throw some of everything into your swatch, throw your Shetland, throw your sock, throw your fingering singles, throw your sport weights, whatever you're using, throw your 100% merino fingering weight yarn in there, throw your mohair in there to check so that you know what you're going to get. You can choose the right size for yourself, because that's important. You should try and be consistent. So, because this is a garment and if it doesn't fit you, it's going to be sad because it's a lot of work. The 1x1 color work I thought was going to be more of a drag, but it ended up being kind of meditative because you don't have to think that hard. And you're going to think creatively a lot anyway about, the colors that you're going to be using next and the colors that you want to incorporate. And again, a lot of people will say like choose a 15 round pattern of colors and then just go back and repeat those 15 rounds so that you know what you're going to get. There's like in the examples, they show you like one that's like kind of random and then one that's kind of planned. And they show you so many swatches, like lo-fi, really bright, like light and monochromatic and like that kind of thing. And I've often said, like, I still have so many scraps. What I would consider doing is doing what I suggested and just holding as the light yarn, just do white, and you're alternating which round you're knitting each stitch white so it looks like a checkerboard. And then like I have so many blue scraps, I could do just a blue one, I could do just a purple one, just a green one, just a pink one. Like if you're a little more wary or you have a lot of one type of color. Hobbs, what is it? What? All right, Hobbs just was barking at something, and so this is his punishment. He has to be on camera. He is not ready for his close-up, but you don't smell terrible today. Good for you. He gets bathed a lot, but he rolls in dead stuff all the time because it smells great to him. Do you like to roll in dead things? This morning, my mom and I took him for a walk. Big yawn. We took him for a walk down to this, if you're from Burlington, we went to Pine Street, and we went to get bagels at this place called Myers that is Montreal style bagels, and they have tables outside, and it's cold. Like it was probably like 36 degrees this morning, so it wasn't freezing, but it was pretty cold. And my mom went in to get the bagels while I sat out there with him, and if there's other people who are sitting out there eating, he will like go up to them, and he doesn't really bother them, but he like wags his tail at them like, I want some of your food. And he but when we have food that he really wants, like especially pizza, hey Hobbs, where's the pizza? Where's the pepperoni? Yeah, look at him. Yeah, he'll wiggle his ears for pepperoni. Or like a bagel. He loves bagels. He loves everything, but he loves like anything with bread and cheese. And so we were both having bagels with cream cheese, and he just started barking at my mom to give him some. He gets a little bit, but he's not supposed to be rude. He doesn't beg that often. It's really just for pizza and like a bagel. So sometimes we actually take him out to this, also on Pine Street. There's this place called Pizza 44, and there's a brewery in the back, and you can take dogs to the patio and just like order pizza, and you can just go pick it up. It's in the same building. And because they're not technically connected, like the brewery doesn't have a kitchen, you can even bring dogs inside, which is great. Because then you can just bring your pizza in, and it's not against like code because there's no kitchen. It's just the bar. So, but we sit like outside. Sometimes we go with other people and we get pizza and beer, and he goes crazy, and we have to like, it's hard to keep him quiet when we're like at a public place and he's like barking for the pizza. Is that right? Are you crazy for pizza? Are you a pizza hound? Popcorn is his other favorite thing. Oh yeah, he just heard me. And you see his tongue. He's like, yeah. He salivates. But yeah, so the t-shirt. Sorry, you could have turned this off if you wanted, if you don't like dogs. People tend to like Hobbs because he's so cute. He's like a big teddy bear. He's just a mean teddy bear who only wants treats. It's not mean. He's just kind of standoffish. He started getting treats if he doesn't growl at other dogs when he sees them. Because dogs, if you have a dog, you probably know this. Dogs don't really like to be on a leash, even if they're like good and leash trained. They don't really like to be on the leash because it makes them feel like they're not in control. And so he will play with any dog if they're not on a leash. No problem. He would never growl at another dog. He would correct a puppy by going, "Ugh." Like he would snap a little bit at a puppy if he was correcting it. But he's pretty nice. So he's learned now that he gets a treat on a walk if he sees another dog and he doesn't growl at it. Although then he'll like look at me after he interacts with a human that doesn't have a dog. And I'm like, no, you can't have this. You're nice to all humans. Well, he's a greeter, not a meter, because he goes up to people thinking that they have treats with his tail up and he's, looking all cute. And they're like, oh, how cute. And then he walks away as soon as he realizes they don't have any treats for him. Is that right? You're only interested in treats? Yeah. There was a tree on his regular walk like an apple tree. Oh, he's going to sleep on the table. There was an apple tree on his regular walk. Yeah, put your head up, buddy. It's weird. You're gonna get your neck problems. So he got to eat an apple every morning until recently because this tree, it's too cold now. It doesn't make there's no more apples. But yeah, he loves food. He's really food motivated. Is that right? Are you food motivated? Where's the treats? What do I have for you? Nothing right now. I have shame for you. You have a sit of shame right now because you were barking. Yeah, at least it wasn't the mailman. Then he would have gone crazy. It's like a scream bark when the mailman comes. Okay. Am I almost done talking about my t-shirt? Here, you want to sniff it? This is the collar. What's that smell? Sheep. He doesn't try to eat yarn, which is really nice. Some dogs and cats really get into yarn, but he doesn't really care about anything as if it's not food. And he's very smart. He knows like what's food and what's not. The only thing he eats that's not regular food is grass. Sometimes it's like, I'm so hungry, I'm eating the grass because you don't feed me enough. Anyway, this is Hobbs again. Hobbs gets to be on sometimes. I'm about to move though. I'm moving next week, and so he won't be on it except when I come home and record from here. Because he is not coming. He's my mom's dog. I do not want to have a full-time job and have to take care of Hobbs because he would get neglected. But my mom can work from home most of the time. So, all right, buddy, it's time for a walk because it's going to get dark. It's 3:30 and it gets dark at 4:30. Why are you licking the table? Oh, because there was food on it, probably. Well, anyway, this has been Tiny Desk Knitting with Seaglass Tea and Emma and Hobbs. If you have any questions, you can always email me. Or comment below. I read all the comments because I don't get that many. So thank you for watching. Bye.